name is Olivia. I am 22 years old. This is my story. It is not a simple story. It is not a happy, easy story. But it is a true story. It is about love, and it is about my father's best friend. I live in a small house with my dad. The house has a blue door and a small garden. My mom passed away 4 years ago. It was very sad. After she was gone, the house felt big and quiet. It was just me and my dad. He is a good dad. He works hard. He is a quiet man. He doesn't talk about his feelings much. I think he misses my mom a lot. I miss her too. My life felt very still, like a calm lake with no wind. I worked at a little coffee shop downtown. I made coffee for people. I smiled and said, "Have a nice day." It was an okay job. It paid for my things. But it was not my dream. I was not sure I had a dream anymore. Sometimes I went on dates. I dated boys my age, boys from college, or boys I met through friends. They were okay, but they felt young. We would go to the movies. He would check his phone during the movie. We would go for dinner. He would talk about his car or his friends or video games. He would ask me a question, but he wouldn't really listen to the answer. He would just wait for his turn to talk again. I felt lonely, even on a date. I would come home, and the quiet house felt better than the loud, empty conversation. I thought, maybe this is just how it is. Maybe love is not like the movies. Maybe it is just okay. Now I need to tell you about George. George was my father's best friend. They were friends since they were boys, since they were 6 years old. Their friendship was long and strong. George was not just a friend. He was family. He was always there. Every Sunday, George came for dinner. My dad would cook. George would bring a dessert. They would sit and talk for hours about work, about sports, about the old days. I would sit with them sometimes, but mostly I stayed in my room. To me, George was just George, a part of the house, like the big clock in the hallway. He had a loud laugh. He always said, "How's school, Olivia?" Even after I finished school, he was kind. He was safe. He was my dad's friend. That is all he was, for a long, long time. He was 45 years old, much older than me. He was tall. He had dark hair with a little bit of gray near his ears. His eyes were brown and kind. When he smiled, his whole face smiled. He was confident, not in a loud way, just in a quiet, solid way. He seemed to know who he was. I didn't know who I was. Then last summer, something changed. Or maybe I changed. It was a hot afternoon in August. I had just broken up with my boyfriend, Michael. He was another boy who didn't listen. He forgot my birthday. I ended it. I was sad. Not because I missed him, but because I felt so tired. Tired of trying. Tired of feeling lonely. I was sitting on the back porch steps. The sun was warm on my skin. I was crying. Not loud crying, just quiet tears running down my face. My dad was at the store. The house was empty, or so I thought. I heard the back door open. I wiped my tears quickly. It was George. He was holding a bag of tools. He was coming to help my dad fix the leaky kitchen sink. He saw my face. He saw the tears. "Hey," he said softly. His voice was gentle. "Are you okay?" I just nodded. I didn't want to talk. Usually, an adult would just pat your shoulder and say, "It will be okay," and then walk away. But George didn't walk away. He put the toolbox down. He came and sat on the step next to me. Not too close, just next to me. We sat in silence for a few minutes. The only sound was the birds in the old oak tree. I didn't feel awkward. I felt calm. His presence was calm. He wasn't trying to fix me. He was just sitting with me in my sadness. Then he said, "A bad day." I looked at him. His eyes were not full of pity. They were full of understanding. And so I talked. I told him about Michael. I told him about the other boys. I said something I had never said out loud. "I just feel like no one ever really listens," I whispered. "They don't see me. They just see a girl to have dinner with." George was quiet for a moment. He looked out at the garden. Then he looked at me. "I listen," he said. "And I see you, Olivia." He said it so simply, so honestly. And then he said, "You are a smart, kind, and beautiful young woman. You deserve someone who sees that. You deserve someone who is excited to listen to you." My heart did something strange. It felt like a little flip. No one had ever said anything like that to me. Not like that. The way he looked at me, it was different. He wasn't looking at a little girl. He wasn't looking at his best friend's daughter. He was looking at me, Olivia, a person. And in that moment, sitting on the dusty back steps, he wasn't just George anymore. He was a man. A kind, handsome man who saw me. And I was terrified. And I was thrilled. That was the beginning. That was the moment the world shifted, just a little bit. After that day on the porch, my eyes were open. I started to notice things about George. Small things. I noticed the way he always took his coffee black. I noticed the way he would listen to my dad, really listen, and nod his head slowly. I noticed he had a small scar above his left eyebrow. I wondered where it came from. I had seen him 1,000 times in my life. But now, I was really seeing him. He and my dad started building a new shed in the backyard. They worked on it every Saturday. I started to bring them lemonade. At first, it was just an excuse to be near him. I would watch them work. My dad, quiet and focused. George, strong and capable. He knew how to use the tools. He knew how to measure the wood. There was a confidence in his movements. One Saturday, they were putting up a wall. I was standing nearby. George turned and saw me watching. He smiled. "Want to help?" he asked. My dad looked surprised. "Oh, she doesn't want to get her hands dirty," my dad said, not in a mean way, just in a dad way. But I said, "Yes, I want to help." George showed me how to use the power drill. He stood behind me. His hand gently guided mine. "Like this," he said. His voice was low, right by my ear. I could feel the warmth from his body. My heart was beating so fast. I am sure he could feel it. I drilled the screw into the wood. It was perfect. "See, you're a natural," he said, and his eyes twinkled. I felt a blush creep up my neck. I hoped he didn't see. I hoped he did. Our conversations started to change. They were not just about school or work anymore. He started asking me real questions. He asked me what I liked to read. I told him about my favorite books. The next week, he brought me a book. "I read this," he said. "I thought you might like it." He had remembered. He had listened. The boy I was dating at the time, his name was Kevin, couldn't even remember my favorite color. I found out George loved photography. He had an old camera. He showed it to me one day. He talked about light and shadows and composition. His eyes lit up when he talked about it. I felt a connection. I always wanted to learn photography, I confessed. It was a secret dream, something I kept locked away. I thought people would think it was silly, a waste of time. George looked at me seriously. "You should," he said. "You have an artist's eye, Olivia. I see the way you look at things. You notice the small details." His belief in me felt like sunshine. It made something inside me want to grow. No one had ever said that to me before. My dad loved me, but he was practical. He wanted me to have a safe job. George saw a different part of me, the part I kept hidden. The more time I spent with him, the deeper my feelings grew. It was a strange, confusing feeling. It was a warm happiness in my chest when he was around. It was a nervous flutter in my stomach when he looked at me. It was a deep ache of longing when he left. I was falling in love with him. I knew it, and it was wrong. It felt so wrong. This was my father's best friend. A man who had held me as a baby. A man 23 years older than me. The guilt was a heavy blanket. What would my dad think? It would break his heart. It would destroy their friendship. I imagined telling him. The thought made me feel sick. So I tried to stop it. I tried to pull away. When I knew George was coming over, I made plans to go out with friends. I went on more dates with Kevin, trying to force a feeling that wasn't there. I tried to see George as just George again. The uncle figure. The safe family friend. But it was too late. I couldn't unsee him. I couldn't unfeel what I was feeling. Kevin and I went to a fancy dinner for his birthday. He talked about himself the whole time. He was planning a trip with his friends. He didn't ask if I wanted to come. He didn't include me. I sat there, picking at my food, feeling invisible. All I could think about was George. I thought about the easy way we talked. I thought about how he asked for my opinion, how he valued what I had to say. I broke up with Kevin that night. I couldn't pretend anymore. One evening, I was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. My dad was in the living room, watching TV. George had stayed late to help my dad with his taxes. He walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water. We were alone. He leaned against the counter and watched me. "You seem quiet tonight," he said. I didn't look at him. I kept washing the dishes. "I'm fine," I said. My voice was tight. "Olivia," he said, his voice gentle. "Talk to me. Is something wrong?" I turned off the water and dried my hands. I leaned against the opposite counter, facing him. The kitchen felt very small. I feel confused," I said, looking at the floor. "Confused about what?" he asked. I could feel his eyes on me. I took a deep breath. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I could step back, or I could jump. I decided to jump, just a little. "About you," I whispered. The silence in the room was loud. I finally looked up at him. His face was serious. He looked sad. He didn't look shocked. I think, deep down, he already knew. He pushed himself off the counter and took one small step towards me. "Oh, Olivia," he said, and his voice was full of a soft, deep sadness. I think I am confused too." My heart stopped. And then it started again, beating a wild, frantic rhythm against my ribs. He felt it too. I was not alone in this feeling. I was not crazy. He felt it too. We just stood there, a few feet apart. In the silent kitchen. The sound of the TV from the other room felt like it was from another world. This kitchen, with him, this was the only real place. I wanted to close the distance between us. I wanted him to hold my hand. I wanted him to tell me everything would be okay. But he didn't. And I didn't. We both knew the truth. This was not okay. This was complicated. This was dangerous. My dad called from the living room. "George, did you find that receipt?" The moment shattered. George took a step back. The connection broke. "Coming," he called out. He looked at me one last time. His eyes were full of things he couldn't say. Then he turned and left the kitchen. I stood there, my body trembling. I didn't know what to do. The secret was out now. Not in words, but it was there, in the air between us. And I knew nothing could ever be the same again. The weeks after that kitchen conversation were filled with a strange, painful tension. We were like two magnets, trying to stay apart, but the pull was too strong. We avoided being alone. If George was in a room, I would leave. If I was in a room, he would find a reason to be somewhere else. My dad didn't seem to notice. He was in his own world of work and quiet grief. But I noticed, and I knew George did too. The house felt different. The easy friendship that had always filled it was gone. Now there was a heavy silence. A silence full of unspoken words, unfelt touches. It was torture. I missed him. I missed our easy conversations. I missed his smile, directed just at me. I knew this couldn't continue. Hiding and avoiding was not a solution. It was just a slow pain. We had to talk, really talk, about the impossible thing that was growing between us. One Saturday, my dad had to go out of town for the day for work. I knew George was planning to come over to finish the shed. My heart was pounding all morning. This was our chance. We had to use it. He arrived around noon. I was in the garden, pretending to read a book. He walked over. He didn't smile. His face was serious. "Your dad's not here?" he asked, though I think he already knew. "No," I said, closing my book. "He'll be back tonight." He nodded, looking at the half-finished shed. "We need to talk, Olivia," he said, finally looking at me. "I know," I whispered. "Let's go for a walk," he suggested. "Somewhere we can talk properly." We drove in his truck to a nearby park. It was a big, quiet park with long, winding trails. We started walking down a path under the tall trees. We didn't speak for a long time. I was so nervous. My hands were cold. What was he going to say? Was he going to end it? Tell me to forget my silly feelings? Finally, he stopped walking. He turned to face me. We were in a quiet spot. No one else was around. He looked so sad. "Olivia," he began. His voice was heavy. "I have been thinking about this, about us, so much. I can't sleep. I can't think straight." I just looked at him, waiting. "My friendship with your father, it is one of the most important things in my life," he said. "He is my brother. I have known him forever. And you, I have watched you grow up. I held you when you were a tiny baby. I always felt like your uncle. I was supposed to protect you." Tears started to form in my eyes. I knew where this was going. But somewhere in the last year, something changed. He continued, his voice softer now. "I started to see you not as a little girl, but as the incredible woman you are. I love talking to you. I love the way your mind works. I love your kindness. Olivia, I have feelings for you. Feelings I should not have. Feelings that are wrong and complicated and impossible." He said it. He actually said the words. A part of me felt a rush of joy. He felt it too. But another part of me felt a deep, painful sorrow. Because he was right. It was impossible. "I feel the same way," I choked out. The tears were falling now. "I try not to. I feel so guilty. But I can't help it." He reached out, as if to touch my face. But then he stopped himself. He dropped his hand. "I know," he said, "but we have to be smart here. We have to think about what is right, not just what we feel." He looked me straight in the eye. "I am 45 years old, Olivia. You are 22. There is a whole lifetime between us. And your dad, if he knew, it would destroy him. It would break his heart, and it would end our friendship. I cannot do that to him. He has already lost so much." He was saying everything I already knew. Everything I had told myself 100 times. But hearing him say, it made it real. Final. "I could never ask you to hide in the shadows," he went on. "To have a secret relationship. You deserve to be loved out in the open. You deserve a man who can hold your hand in public. A man your father can be proud of. And I cannot be that man. Not without causing so much pain." I was crying openly now, and I didn't care. It hurt so much. It was the truth. The hard, painful truth. He was right. He was being honorable. He was being the good man I knew he was. and that made me love him even more. "So what do we do?" I asked, my voice trembling. He took a deep breath. "We have to let it go," he said. His own voice was thick with emotion. "We have to be friends, just like we always were. We have to put your dad first. We have to put his happiness and our family first. It will be hard. The hardest thing I have ever had to do, but it is the right thing to do." I looked at him. Through my tears, I saw the pain in his eyes. He was hurting too. This wasn't just my pain, it was our pain. And in a strange way, that made it a little easier to bear. I wasn't alone. I nodded slowly. "You're right," I whispered. "It's the right thing to do." He finally reached out and gently wiped a tear from my cheek with his thumb. His touch was warm. It sent a shiver through me. "You are so strong, Olivia," he said. "So much stronger than you know." We stood there for a moment longer, in our own sad little bubble. Then we turned and started walking back. We didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. The decision was made. Our impossible love story was over before it even had a chance to begin. The walk back to the truck was the longest, saddest walk of my life. Living after that conversation in the park was incredibly difficult. It was one thing to make the right decision. It was another thing to live with it every day. George still came over. He and my dad finished the shed. I had to watch him, talk to him, and pretend that my heart wasn't breaking into a million pieces every time he looked at me. I had to pretend that he was just George again. And he was pretending too. I could see it. There was a new distance in his eyes, a sadness that was always there, just under the surface. Our conversations became simple again. "How was work? The weather is nice today." All the deep, real talks were gone. We had built a wall between us to protect ourselves and to protect my dad. But the wall was cold and lonely. Some days, the pain was too much. I would see him laugh at one of my dad's jokes, and I would feel a sharp pang in my chest. I wanted to be the one to make him laugh like that. I had to leave the room sometimes. I would go to my bedroom and cry silently into my pillow. I felt like I was living a lie. A different kind of lie. Not the lie of a secret affair, but the lie of pretending not to be in love. But then something began to shift inside me. I kept hearing George's words in my head. "You are so strong, Olivia. And you have an artist's eye." He believed in me. Even though we couldn't be together, he had given me a gift. The gift of seeing myself in a different way. I thought about my life. I was 22. I was working in a coffee shop. I felt stuck. I realized I had been waiting for a boy to make me feel less lonely, waiting for something to happen. I had been looking to someone else to make me happy. First the boys my age, and then George. I saw that I was looking for safety and confidence in him. He had it, but he couldn't give it to me. I had to find it for myself. So I made a change. I remembered our conversation about photography, the secret dream. I decided to stop keeping it a secret. I took the small amount of money I had saved. I went to the local community college and I signed up for a beginner's photography class. I was so nervous on the first day. But as soon as I held the camera in my hands, it felt right. The teacher taught us about light and angles. I started to see the world differently. I saw beauty in small things. The way the morning light hit a teacup, the lines on an old woman's face, the bright colors of the fruit at the market. I took pictures of everything. My class was 2 evenings a week. It gave me a reason to be out of the house, a reason to not be there when George came for dinner. It was an escape, but it was also more than that. It was a purpose. It was something that was just for me. My dad noticed the change. "You seem happier, Olivia," he said one night. "You're always running around with that camera." He was smiling. A real smile. "Your pictures are very good," he said. He had looked at them. He was proud of me. Hearing that from him meant the world to me. It made me feel that I had made the right choice. I had protected him from so much pain. And in doing so, I was finding my own way. I still loved George. I think a part of me always will. Love is strange like that. It doesn't just disappear because you tell it to. It stays. It changes shape. My love for him changed from a painful longing into a quiet, grateful memory. He was the person who woke me up. He helped me see that I was not living the life I wanted. He helped me find the courage to start. He was a chapter in my story. A very important, very beautiful, very sad chapter. But he was not the whole book. The rest of the book was mine to write. Now my life is not still anymore. It is moving. I finished the first photography course, and I signed up for the next one. I started a small online portfolio. I even got a small job taking pictures for a local restaurant's menu. It's not a lot, but it's a start. It's my start. I am building a life for myself. A life I am proud of. A life that feels like mine. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day I will meet someone new. Someone I can love out in the open. Someone who will listen. Or maybe I will be on my own for a while. But I am not lonely in the same way. I am learning to be my own friend, to enjoy my own company. I am finding my own confidence. I am becoming the person George saw when he looked at me. If you are listening to this, and maybe your heart is confused, I want you to know something. It is okay. Love is not always simple. It is not always easy. Sometimes, the person you love is not the person you can be with. And that hurts. It hurts a lot. But that pain can be a teacher. It can show you where you need to grow. It can show you how strong you are. Don't wait for someone else to make you happy. Don't wait for someone else to save you. You can be your own hero. Find your little spark, your secret dream, and give it some air. Let it grow. The hardest choices often lead to the most beautiful destinations. You are stronger than you think. You can do this. Keep going.